Hey guys, Brad from simpleguitar.com here, and welcome to another video. Today we're gonna have fun talking about vibrato. What the heck is vibrato? Vibrato is the thing that you'll see guitar players do all the time where they like shake the string and it makes it sound really cool. So they'll be playing and you get that cool little wavy sound. That's vibrato. Now, before we dive into this too much, I do want to tell you about a gift I have for you for spending some time here with me. It's my way of saying thank you. If you go to my website at simpleguitar.com/top10, there you can pick up the guide, The Top 10 Things to Learn on Guitar First. It's a guide for 10 practical things, walks you through how to do all of it so that you can start making more music, more real music, not like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and stuff like that. Like, you can get playing real music a whole lot faster and having more fun with the guitar and impressing everybody that you play for, which is why a lot of us play guitar, right? Let's be honest. So go to simpleguitar.com/top10, download that guide. It's my way of saying thank you for watching the video today. All right, so let's dive into vibrato and talk about what it is and how you do it, because there's lots of different ways to do vibrato on the guitar. And today we're gonna only go over a few of those. But the big thing to keep in mind is anything worth doing is worth doing wrong to get started. So there's a good chance that when you start out using this vibrato, if you've never done it before, you're going to suck. And that's okay, because anything worth doing is worth doing wrong just to get started. The sooner that you start trying to do vibrato, the sooner you're going to train your ear and your hands to do it better, and it's going to start sounding a whole lot cooler. But that time between, say, now and a year from now, you can either go, well, I'm not good enough to do vibrato, and still suck at it a year from now, or you can get started on it today and a year from now have pretty awesome vibrato because you've been trying it and putting it into your playing. So let's actually zoom in a little bit so that you can see my hand a little bit better. And we will talk about some different ways that we can do vibrato and get you started doing it and sounding awesome. Okay, so when it comes to vibrato, there's a few different ways that you can do it. But the first one I'm going to show you is the easiest way to do it. It's how I did it for years because nobody ever taught me this for a long time. And so this is how I did it when I first started. It's the easiest way to do it when you start. So what you do is you're just going to play a note. I'm just playing the 5th fret on my 3rd string here. And what you do is, this is classical vibrato. This actually works really well on like the violin or the cello or something that's fretless. It works a whole lot better on. It does have its applications, especially when music is like if it's really slow and you need a really subtle vibrato, this will work really well. But basically what you do is you play this note and then you shake your hand from side to side like this. Okay, so the string is actually not moving or bending or anything, but I'm gonna play that note, and just by shaking my hand, you can hear a slight vibrato that way. Now, like I said, you can get started doing this, and what you do is you would just play a lick or a scale or something and end on a note and add some vibrato. So you could just do this. And you can hear it's really slight, but it will add a little bit of dimension to your sound. So that's the easiest way to get started with vibrato. That's like super beginner vibrato, doing this classical style. But for all the stuff I play, you know, I'm playing rock, alternative, blues, fun stuff. That is too subtle and will not sound very good in a lot of different styles. So what you would do instead is a wrist vibrato, which that's actually kind of inaccurate because the motion, a lot of people will say the motion comes from your wrist, and most of the time it doesn't. It actually comes back from your forearm back here, because what we're going to do is we're going to use our hand, and I'm going to grip the neck like this, right? Everybody says, don't grab the neck like this. It's bad technique. No, everybody who does vibrato like this does this. and you bring your thumb over the top. I've got my whole hand gripping the neck like this. See that? Okay. And what you're going to do is you're going to bend the string either by pushing it up to the ceiling or bending it down and pulling it toward the floor. Either way, your pitch goes up. It doesn't matter which way. Your pitch, the note that you are playing is going to go up and it's going to sound good, right? And one of those ways is going to feel good. But now we're doing our vibrato by bending the string and then releasing it. And then you do it quickly and it sounds awesome, right? And you'll find as you do this, either pulling it down towards the floor is easier or pushing it up towards the ceiling is easier, right? But you need to be able to do both, because here's the thing. When you're doing classical vibrato like this, if you're on your 6th string, it works. If you're on your 1st string, it works. But if I'm bending the string to do my vibrato, then if I naturally like to pull down towards the floor, that's what's easiest for me. Then if I'm on my 1st string, I'm just going to pull the string off, right? And so you need to learn how to do that, because it'll work on my 6th string. But if I'm on my 1st string, I can't pull down, right? So you need to learn how to pull down to the floor and push up towards the ceiling. Okay. And then you need to be able to do it on command and adjust according to what string you're on. So on your 1st and 2nd strings, you're going to want to be pushing up to the ceiling, right? But on your 5th and 6th strings, you want to pull towards the floor. And then on your 3rd and 4th, it doesn't matter. You can do whatever you want with those. It's all good. Now, like I said, a lot of people will call that wrist vibrato, but what's happening here is my hand right here is the pivot point, but my whole forearm is twisting. It's all rotating all the way back to here. You see that? It's a torsion where I'm pronating and supinating my arm. I believe that, if I get my terms wrong, you guys can correct me. That's all good. But I'm just twisting my whole wrist and arm like this. I've seen videos where it does look like guys are using their wrist like this to get that. But that doesn't work for me as much. And I've had a lot more success with students getting them to use this pivot point and twisting and rotating that whole forearm. So that is probably the most common. You're going to hear that in all sorts of rock and blues and fun stuff. And it is really important to get down. Now, the way that you do get this one down is actually you use a metronome, because the timing on this is going to be really important. Most people don't train their vibrato technique. They just kind of go randomly and shake the string and do whatever, and it sounds like crap. I don't want your vibrato to sound like crap. I want you to have nice, controlled, awesome sounding vibrato that when people hear it, they stop and they go, "What? That sounded awesome," right? So what you're going to do is you're actually going to get a metronome and set it to like 40 beats per minute. And then you're going to practice bending the string. So right now, this is my 7th fret on my 3rd string. I'm going to bend this note up to the 8th fret, right? So I'm going to start here, but my target note with the bend is here. And so I'm going to hit the 7th fret and bend it up to get that 8th note, that 8th fret note. And then release it. And what you're going to do is you're going to try to hit the top of that bend every time your metronome clicks. And it's going to be really slow, but you're going to go. Right? And you have to make sure that you're hitting it with the metronome. Doing this super slow and controlled is going to make your vibrato way, way, way better. So do it at like 40 beats per minute, 60 beats per minute, 90 beats per minute, and then like 120 beats per minute. And it's going to get faster every time. But you're going to want to practice pushing up and pulling down. But here is the trick. The most important thing with doing this vibrato is not your hand, it's not your fingers, it's your ears. The number one most important thing is going to be listening and making sure that you're starting at this note, you're bending up to this note, and you're releasing back down to this note. A mistake a lot of people will make is they will bend, and then when they release, they don't get all the way back down to that starting note. So you got to make sure that you bend it up to the right note and then release it all the way down. So getting it up to the right note and being consistent with releasing it and getting it to the correct note is important. Doing it slow and controlled and in time is going to be really important. And then the other thing is going to be making sure that you do it really smooth, that you're bending, that you're not stopping at that upper note, and then when you release, you don't stop and then bend, right? We don't want a jigsaw, or we don't want it to be like this where you go. We want it to be a nice, controlled, smooth, contoured sound. Where I'm not really stopping on any one note there. It's a constant motion, and that makes the sound smooth and easy to listen to, okay? So that's how you do that. Start with the metronome, do it slow, practice pulling down to the ground and pushing up to the ceiling. But remember, the most important thing is listening and using your ears, okay? Now, that is probably the most common kind of vibrato that you're going to hear in a lot of popular stuff. When you get a little bit better with that, you can practice doing bent note vibrato, where you bend a note and then you add vibrato to that note once it's bent. That's a lot harder, but it sounds so cool. So build up to doing that. We'll do a whole other video on that. Now, this other kind of vibrato, this is one that I hear about, but honestly, I never, ever use this kind of vibrato just because it doesn't enter my playing. And instead of gripping your neck like this, like people say not to do because it's evil, I don't know why. That's stupid. So many great guitar players do that. So this type of vibrato is called finger vibrato, and I find it way more difficult than it needs to be, because what you do most of the time, your thumb is right behind the neck and you're in proper classical position. And what you do is you would hit a note and then use your fingers to bend them, to bend the string and do the vibrato completely with your fingers. Now, this never enters my playing just because of the style that I play, but I know that, there's metal stuff that uses it and other genres that will use more finger vibrato, but the principle of it is the same as what we were doing before. With that kind of vibrato, you have to use your ears, make sure that you're doing it consistently, that it's in time, and that it's a nice, smooth contour. But it's just a different technique because you're making the vibrato with your finger instead of with your wrist or forearm by twisting. Okay. Now, this type of vibrato, my favorite type of vibrato, is one that was never explained to me ever by anybody. I just figured it out. And I'm not the first person to discover it, but I've discovered that this is how Eric Clapton does his vibrato. And that is using your bicep, right? So I call this bicep vibrato or elbow vibrato, where the motion isn't coming from a twisting motion like this. It's coming from engaging your bicep and moving your whole lower part of your arm up and down like this. Now, if you watch Eric Clapton, he does his vibrato like this, where his thumb leaves the neck And he's making that vibrato by engaging that bicep and shaking the whole bottom part of his arm, right? And with this too, you can do it pushing up, which is how I primarily use this, is by pushing the string up to the ceiling. Or you can do it pulling down, right? But you can get pretty wild with this one because your bicep is such a bigger muscle than just rotating your hand that you can get crazy with it. And it's a lot of fun. But being able to do this is helped me a lot with doing vibrato like on my first string, because I found it easier to do this and to use my bicep to do that on my first string to push up than using my wrist, because naturally for me with my wrist, pushing up like that is a lot harder than pulling down. Pulling down with my wrist is easy, but pushing up is a lot easier with my bicep. So these are some different forms of vibrato for you. You've got your classical vibrato. You've got your wrist vibrato where you're bending the string by pulling it down or pushing it up. And then you've got your finger vibrato that is made from your fingers. And then you've got your elbow or bicep vibrato or your clapped in vibrato where you're actually shaking the whole bottom part of your arm. And that has been my new favorite one because it's the most recent one that I've discovered and been working on and using, and I really like it. So I hope that you guys dig that. Have fun with this vibrato. Start using it. That's going to be the key, is you just start using it by throwing it in to your solos. Just find a lick, even if you're just practicing like 4 notes. Like this is all 5 and 7 on my 4th and 3rd strings right here. You could just take those 4 notes and just go and add your vibrato onto that last note and do those in any order. Right? Now, so practice your vibrato, have fun with it. Remember, it's more about your ears and listening than it is what you do with your hands. And then if you haven't already gotten it, go to simpleguitar.com/top10. Pick up the top 10 things to learn on guitar first. Have fun with that guide. It's free to you. It's my way of saying thank you for being here, learning how to play vibrato with me. And I will catch you in the next video.